AITA for keeping the promise I made my kids at the expense of my stepdaughter. I 43F have 2 children, Sarah, 17F, and Aiden, 15M. 9 years ago, my late husband passed away in a fatal car crash. I was devastated. I was afraid for my kids to grow up without a father and to be alone. Luckily, my family stepped up. My brother-in-law acted as a surrogate father for my kids. My sister and Beal do not have kids of their own but were happy to help us out. 5 years ago, I met my now husband, 47M, and his daughter, Elizabeth, 17F, at a friend's housewarming party. I was hesitant to date again, but I took things slow, making sure he was a good man to be around my kids. I discussed my kids' feelings with them at every important milestone and made sure they were comfortable with my husband and stepdaughter. When he proposed and I spoke to my kids about how they felt, only one request, the promise, was made. I would make sure that my kids and I had time together, just the 3 of us. I agreed to take my children out twice a month, just the 3 of us, with exceptions if needed. As my kids remember their father, and Elizabeth's mother was still in her life, we made a rule that neither of us would try to be parents to our stepkids. We are responsible for our bio kids. This was discussed with all the children together. Our kids are also allowed to choose how they feel about one another, whether or not they wished for a sibling relationship or something else. It's not up to my husband and me to decide. Back to the present time, I still regularly take my kids out twice a month for an adventure with the 3 of us. This could be going out to dinner, a movie, the zoo, etc. I also take Elizabeth with me for some things, such as getting our nails done, shopping, and volunteering. Sometimes my kids will come along as well. My husband and I are still responsible for our own kids. We parent them differently, but that's what is causing the problems. We are each in charge of grades, party planning, rewards, punishments, special parent-child time, chore list, curfews/rules. The issue is, I am far more active in my kids' lives than my husband is. I regularly celebrate my children, go to all their events, and keep on top of their grades. I know where my kids are, I listen to their concerns and speak about their lives. My husband doesn't do those things for my stepdaughter. I think I underestimated how much this is creating tension between our kids. Elizabeth and Aiden don't interact with one another. Elizabeth and Sarah absolutely despise one another. Sarah and Aiden are best friends. My husband came to me yesterday and said we needed to talk about how Sarah and Aiden, mostly Sarah, treat Elizabeth. He pointed out several instances of exclusionary behavior, such as Sarah driving Aiden around but not Elizabeth. Sarah and Aiden deciding to have the 2 bedrooms across the house from Sarah. Originally, Aiden and Elizabeth would have had them. Sarah not inviting Elizabeth on her birthday trip to Cedar Point despite them having the same friend group. Sarah spending money buying Aiden gifts but not Elizabeth. Aiden refusing to allow Elizabeth to use his technology. Sarah and Aiden only doing things Elizabeth doesn't enjoy while at home or stopping when Elizabeth wants to join. Aiden refusing to cook for Elizabeth. Sarah buying all 3 of them locks for their bedroom doors, which my husband claims was only to make it look like Sarah did something nice for Elizabeth. My husband claimed that I was the cause of this problem by setting the example of excluding Elizabeth with the promise I made to my kids. He demands that I stop the practice and start to treat Elizabeth like my own kid. I said no, as that is not part of our agreement. Elizabeth isn't the one asking me. He isn't willing to step up and act as a father to my kids, and my children come first. I will always make them feel valued. I'm the only one who ever plans anything for the kids. Since we've bought a house together, he has only planned birthday parties for Elizabeth. Nothing else. He doesn't plan family trips, dinners, celebratory events, none of that. I know he won't put in any effort for my kids as he barely does for his own. When I've brought this up to him in the past, he said it's not my problem and reminds me of our agreement. Oh, and since I didn't add it in, I'm going to speak to both of my kids separately and then together to get to the bottom of their behavior. So, AITA for refusing to break the promise to my kids. Edit. I did not expect this to blow up, nor did I expect to be posting again after only 24 hours. A lot has happened in that time. First, I want to address some information that was previously left out of my original post. Seems I am not a very good writer. I also apologize in advance for using a lot of lists in this post. It helps me think to have things written out. Aiden is a boy. I accidentally wrote 15F, but I fixed that. My mistake. Both my husband and I were unaware of the dynamic in our household. We both work long hours during the week and don't spend much time together at home. For context, my work schedule is 8-6 Monday through Thursday. I have Fridays and Sundays off and the option to work on Saturdays if needed. My kids and I go to sleep around 8 to 9. Elizabeth stays up a little later, and my husband goes to sleep around 7. He works 12-hour shifts from 6 to 6 every day and wakes up for work around 5. He also has Fridays and Sundays off. I usually plan for the weekends on Monday, which we typically spend out of the house with my kids, stepdaughter and husband. I do spend time with my stepdaughter, as stated in the previous post. My husband and Elizabeth have different ideas of spending time together. For me and my kids, it's getting out of the house. For them, it's staying home, playing board games or watching a movie. This activity started because my husband wasn't in a good financial situation post-divorce and couldn't afford to take her out often, so they did spend a lot of time together. Elizabeth's mother, Bailey, is in jail and has been for 5 months. She committed a small crime and was sentenced to a year. She keeps in contact with Elizabeth via phone calls, letters, and visitation. Saturdays are usually spent with me and Elizabeth visiting Bailey unless I need to work. Her father doesn't bring her. My kids and Elizabeth did get along. The exclusion doesn't happen during family trips or when I'm around. Sarah has a car but Elizabeth doesn't, though she has a license. Sarah has been working since she was 15, and I agreed that I would pay half plus insurance, while Sarah pays the other half plus gas. Aiden was also not on the Cedar Point trip. I paid for most of the cost, but Sarah helped, and a lot of the other girls' parents plus kids chipped in as well. I am stricter with my kids than my husband is with Elizabeth. They have a curfew, grade expectations, safety regulations, etc. I think that's it, but I might add some if I think of anything else. I'm also going to address the previous points. These are not justifications, just how I see them along with more clarification. Sarah drives Aiden around but not Elizabeth. Aiden does not have a license and has multiple outside activities. Elizabeth drives either mine or my husband's car. Sarah and Aiden decided to have the 2 bedrooms across the house from Sarah. Originally, Aiden and Elizabeth would have had them. Our house has 2 master bedrooms and 2 regular bedrooms. Sarah was going to have one of the masters, but she insisted Elizabeth take it. Her reasoning being she won't have to share a bathroom with her stepbrother. The 2 masters are on the main floor. The regular rooms are on the 2nd floor. Literally just a hallway with bedrooms and a bathroom. Sarah not inviting Elizabeth on her birthday trip to Cedar Point despite them having the same friend group. Said in point 8. Sarah spends money buying Aiden gifts but not Elizabeth. I don't see a problem with this. Sarah earns her own money. She can spend it as she pleases. Aiden refuses to allow Elizabeth to use his technology. He and Sarah are both gamers, but Aiden is 10x more invested in it than Sarah. Sarah and Aiden only do things Elizabeth doesn't enjoy while at home or stop when Elizabeth wants to join. Not sure, but definitely not okay. Aiden refuses to cook for Elizabeth. Aiden cooked a lot as a kid and developed a passion for it. He cooks dinner for the entire family, including Elizabeth, and will cook separate things on Sarah's request, like lunch or breakfast, and she will also buy him ingredients for new recipes either of them wish to try. Sarah buys all 3 of them locks for their bedroom doors, which my husband claims was only to make it look like Sarah did something nice for Elizabeth. This one I also see no issue with. Privacy is important and all 3 installed their locks. Date. I spoke with all 3 kids last night separately and told them all to write a list of things they want to address in today's family meeting. I found out a lot that absolutely shocked me when I spoke privately. For the family meeting, we all sat down in the living room. I asked Elizabeth to speak first, since she is the one who is upset and without explanation for her behavior. She reiterated the statements above and added some things on her list. Elizabeth's list. Movie nights upstairs without her. Refusing to drive her to school / leaving without her. Sarah. refusing to invite her to hang out with their friends or lying about where she was going. Sarah, having a group chat without her. Refusing to even attempt a sibling relationship with her. Putting locks on their doors and using the bathroom to be able to visit each other/hang out. Gaming without her. Elizabeth said she felt as if they hated her and wanted her gone. She said she is just as worthy of a parent as Sarah and Aiden were, and how it's unfair that we get to be a family, and she doesn't have one. Sarah, very rudely, asked if she honestly felt she has any less of a family than she and Aiden do. Elizabeth was going to say something else, but my husband stepped in and asked Sarah to read her list. Though Sarah told me last night about what Elizabeth had been doing, I didn't expect how bluntly she would bring it up. Sarah's list. Breaking into their bedrooms and stealing their stuff/food. Insisting on sharing clothes/matching. Insisting on a sibling relationship when already declined by both. Following her around school and forcing herself into Sarah's friend group despite being told multiple times to leave them alone. Threatening to go to teachers/me and hubby if they didn't. Stealing and then ruining Sarah's makeup. Telling my kids they should be happy their father died because now they have her dad and a sister. Making inappropriate comments towards anime characters out loud while watching together. This includes minors. Insisting Aiden has a crush on her. Getting handsy with Aiden and then getting defensive when Sarah intervenes/calls her out for doing so. This is the real reason Sarah insisted on the bedroom situation. Purchasing 2 fun items and giving one to Sarah after she confessed to a crush on TV. Throwing a fit whenever she loses in a game or any form of competition. Refuses to study/spend time on school and then complaining when she doesn't get good grades. Expecting me to step up and do everything for her, even though I do not do those things for even my own kids instead of her father. Constantly being late getting ready for school and then being upset they don't wait for her. Flirting with Sarah's boyfriend at the time because sisters share everything. Refusing to get a job or do anything worthwhile while being jealous of both kids' accomplishments. When she was done, I asked Aiden if Elizabeth was really trying to touch him. He didn't answer at first, but after a moment said yes. Elizabeth denied it immediately, but Sarah shut her down and said she wasn't finished speaking. Sarah told Elizabeth that she was a disgusting human being, that she thinks she can get away with anything she wants but she can't. None of their friends like her and wouldn't be around her if Elizabeth didn't make them. That she was spoiled and entitled. That if she ever tried to do anything with her brother, Sarah and everyone else would make her life a living hell. I stopped Sarah there, as I don't tolerate threats of violence. Elizabeth said it's not fair, that she and Sarah have similar interests, and that she's only treated worse because she's ugly and Sarah isn't. When you do it, it's cool. When I do it, it's trashy and weird. Sarah argued back, saying it doesn't have anything to do with her looks, she's just a bad person. Elizabeth brought up how Sarah is the bad one, purposefully excluding her, spending time with me separately, refusing to acknowledge her in the house she lives in, refusing to accept her and her father as family, that they both lost a parent. Sarah: my dad is dead. He's never coming back. Your mom is in jail. You speak with her daily. See her every week. It's not the same at all. Elizabeth: it is the same. I share my dad. You're just bitching that you have to share your mom now. Sarah: at least my dad didn't choose to leave me. Your mom had a choice, and I can see why she chose it. Elizabeth slapped Sarah. Aiden punched Elizabeth. Husband shoved Aiden into a mirror hung on the wall. I started screaming at my husband to keep his hands off my children while telling my kids to go pack a bag. Kids ran off, Elizabeth followed them. Husband and I were screaming at each other. I could hear Elizabeth pounding on their doors and crying. After a lot of yelling, my husband slapped me. Then Sarah started screaming at Elizabeth. Apparently Aiden was putting the bags in the car, and the girls disappeared. I found them in my bedroom fighting because Sarah was packing a bag for me. I told Sarah to go wait in the car while I packed. She hesitantly obeyed. I packed my bag while my husband and Elizabeth were screaming at me, then left. Sarah was on the curb in the driver's seat, so I let her drive away and then told her to switch with me. My son had to be taken to the hospital as the mirror had cut him. Aiden needed 17 stitches and has a concussion. I am pressing charges against my husband and filing for separation and divorce immediately. I'm currently writing this from our hotel room. I spoke to Sarah and asked why she didn't bring any of this up previously. She told me that Elizabeth only started acting like that after my husband had already proposed. And both she and Aiden wanted me to be happy because they'd seen how depressed I was after my late husband died. This obviously broke my heart. I told her, and later Aiden, that they are my happiness. Sarah argued and said that since I'd made so many sacrifices, it's only fair that they did too. I promised her that she never needs to sacrifice anything for me, as I am their mother. Sarah started crying, apologizing and just saying how she never meant for me to lose another husband and that she never would have let Aiden get hurt. I kept reassuring her the whole ride to our hotel. My kids are asleep now. I'm scared. Neither husband nor Elizabeth has contacted me. I'm not sure if I want them to. That's it for now. Thanks all for the comments. Question: should I go to the jail and speak to Bailey? It seems my husband didn't know about Elizabeth's behavior, and I didn't either, so I just want answers.
Subscribe for more great content.